I have to make sure the logo faces out when I put the cup back down.
You can't see it. It's okay. The big logo is right here, as it always is, in between us.
Which my hand disappears
behind.
Right?
Kay always gets all, like, weirded out. She's like, it's so weird. They're, like, you guys disappear behind it. I was like, duh.
Yeah, because the ministry is more important than us.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a shield. The logo is a shield, and we get behind the shield.
Yeah, but technically we're in front of the shield, but it's behind here, and I'm behind it.
Does it look like I'm holding it right now?
No, it'd be like, I'm holding it.
I thought you were going to hit me. I thought you were going to hit me.
I still have to hit you. I haven't hit you yet.
No, you haven't. Son of a... I'm living in constant fear. I'm rewatching Parks and Rec again.
So are we. We just started the other day.
Are you guys just on like season 1?
No, we binge.
Hardcore. I'm on like season 4 right now. It's right after Entertainment 720 goes bankrupt,
Oh.
and they're sitting in the warehouse. And he's like, remember when you danced on the table with the receptionist so hard that you broke a rib? Yeah, man, it still never set right. Every breath is agony, son.
Yeah.
I love that show so much.
My wife is in that special window of time right now. So we have a tendency of falling asleep on the couch watching a television show. Mm-hmm. Because if we fall asleep in our bed, she'll be pregnant. She's probably going to kill me when she reads this and listens to this in a week. We have to meet twice next week to record 2 full sets of podcasts. Because the following week, I'm going to be live streaming it up in Vegas.
Viva Las Vegas.
Okay.
The Dead Kennedys cover of that song is better than the original. What are we talking about tonight?
Jack or...
Whoa. What?
John? Kennedy?
The Dead Kennedys.
Yeah, Jack or John.
Yeah.
Or Ted.
I mean...
They're all dead.
Doesn't matter.
POS Catholics. So today... am I about to mess up the intro again?
I'm just thinking. We need to do the intro, then the prayer.
I thought it was what we're doing, intro, prayer.
No, because when we start with what we're doing, we start talking about what we're doing, and then we forget the intro and the prayer.
Welcome to Catholic Guardians. Welcome to Catholic Guardians, an unapologetically masculine podcast for Catholic men.
By Catholic men.
But not bi as in sexual. I am leaving that in.
Oh, you have to.
And together, we're going to return to tradition. Let's open in prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. I'm going to keep with the Fatima prayer only because it's I think it's in line with the craziness that's going on in the world today.
Yep.
So again, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. O my Jesus, forgive us our sins, save us from the fires of hell, lead all souls into heaven, especially those in most need of thy mercy. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So today, aside from horribly offensive and politically incorrect jokes,
we should get that on a shirt. So today. Because that's how we start after every single prayer. So today.
I think we should get another t-shirt that says, is it prayer first or
prayer first or the intro?
I have to talk to you about the legit intro that I think we should have.
We're finally gonna do it?
I think we are. I think it'll be like a video, like a 30-second bammy kind of a thing. So today we are talking about the supernatural world.
So spooky. But not always spooky.
I think it's always spooky. It's either spooky or scary. The first word out of an angel's mouth is don't your pants.
Be not afraid.
Be not afraid. Don't lose it. The existence of the supernatural world and how we work with it every single day, especially on the weekend when we participate in the holy sacrifice of the Mass.
And I think it's really important because my wife and I were talking about this when we said that we wanted to do an episode like this. I think it's really important. Do it. No, don't do it. It's going to hurt so bad.
I'll cry.
I think it's really important because we are a supernatural faith. We believe in a lot of supernatural things, and so everybody effectively has a line in terms of what they're willing to believe in. Mm-hmm. And I think as Catholics, our line is very, very far in terms of all of the goings on, because you and I talked about it right before the podcast. If you strip away everything else at its base level, what is Christianity? It's the belief that a supernatural...
An eternal dictator.
It's the belief that a supernatural, genderless being that exists outside of space and time, that is three people in one, spoke a word and created the material universe, and then sent 1/3 of himself to be born immaculately of a virgin to die for the sins of one of his creations. If you strip away everything, that's effectively what Christianity is.
I bet.
So
when you say it like that,
so when you say it like that, belief in the supernatural and in terms of the existence of angels, we just talked about the hierarchy of angels in the last episode, beliefs in bodily assumption, bodily resurrection after death, stuff like that doesn't really seem that much of a stretch anymore.
It's not that far-fetched.
No.
All right. So Wikipedia tells me Supernatural is a 15-season running television.
It is a television show, which they said it was going to end after season 10, but they were making too much money.
Yeah, they were making too much money.
But this season is the last because this is network television, so every season is like 24 episodes, and there's only so much
demons
that the Winchester boys can go through before it's like, all right, guys, enough.
Okay, so it says that supernatural is an adjective.
Yes.
Is a manifestation or event that is attributed to some force beyond scientific understanding or the laws of nature. Unnaturally or extraordinarily great. Manifestations or events considered to be of supernatural origin, such as ghosts. So, I didn't want to close that. I think we can start with the greatest supernatural event that we witness every week, and that is...
if you are blessed enough to be able to go every week.
Yeah. God, get all PC on me. Like, oh, my privilege. My Catholic privilege. My cisgendered white male Catholic privilege.
Eurocentric imperialism.
You stole my childhood. How dare you? I'm gonna gift the out of Greta. Turd nugget kid. Anyway, so yeah, if you go to Mass every Sunday, as you should, you get to witness a supernatural event every Mass.
And we've mentioned it before, but it's really kind of sad with the number of catechized, even though they're poorly catechized, but catechized Catholics that don't believe in the true presence of Christ in the Eucharist. Mm-hmm. It's one of the things that I feel is the reason behind that is because it's become an almost commonplace miracle because we have the luxury of going to it every day if we have the ability to, but we have the ability to go to this weekly, daily if we so choose, and so we lose the awe and we lose that the recognition that is a miracle.
So here's a thought. Technically, you can experience a supernatural event every single time you pray. Mm-hmm. Right? Because sometimes, if you think about it from a completely secular perspective, when you pray or when you're just talking to the earth,
when you're just putting it out there,
when you're
in the
talking
universe.
to Father, Mother, Nature, Earth, you're just talking, right? And your words go out into the natural world, and that's the end of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what a secularist would believe. A Catholic Christian person who actually has an understanding of a God, so I say like a deist's perspective, right? A God that is not this world.
Not necessarily Christian or Catholic at this point, but if you believe in a deity.
If you're an actual deist. I don't think you can do this when you're a polytheist, but if you're a deist, and God is this perfect, uncreated creator outside of the physical existence and resides outside of that physical existence and that at the same time is in that existence. Every time you pray, your words fall upon the ears of that creator. Mm-hmm. And that's a supernatural event. Because your words transcend the physical, natural realm into the supernatural.
I buy it.
$19. It's a steal. Right? Or even if you're not praying to God, right? Well, you only pray to God. But if you were praying
you only pray to God, but you ask.
You only worship God. You can pray to your guardian angel.
But at the same time, heaven does not exist within this plane. But how often, as Catholics, do we ask angels and saints to intercede on our behalf?
So technically, when you're doing that, the receiving end of that prayer is not in this existence. Mm-hmm. It's in the supernatural realm, so to speak. So technically, every time you're praying, you're in communion with the supernatural world.
But if only 1/3 of all, or not 1/3, but if only 30% of church-going Catholics believe in the true presence of Christ in the Eucharist, what's that number when it comes to the belief in prayer?
Yeah, or a prayer, like a consistent
or having
prayer
a prayer life in general. Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So, I wanted to get, because I texted you this subject probably hours ago.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk about it because we did a post today on our Instagram account that was talking about how everybody needs to relax, right? Because there's this huge issue going on right now. The Amazonian, the Scamazonian Synod.
The
Shamazonian Synod, right? And there's a lot of, I think a good word for it is wonky. There's a bit of wonky stuff going on at the Vatican right now, right? And if you've been following our podcast, which you should be, if you don't, I'll punch him in the face. If you do, I'll punch him in the face.
So either way, I get punched in the face.
Either way, he gets punched in the face with truth. If you've been listening to the last handful of episodes, we've been talking about the miraculous apparitions of our Blessed Virgin Mother.
We spent a lot of time talking about them because they're so important.
And all of her revelations and foretelling of the giant turd storm that the church is going to go through, the chastisement that will follow, but inevitably, and again, I referenced this in the post today, she says explicitly that be not afraid because her immaculate heart will prevail.
It will be victorious.
It will triumph.
Yeah.
And if you look in...
It's really important because in all four of... In the four really apocalyptic, not apocryphal, but in the four apocalyptic revelations of Fatima and Akita and Our Lady of Good Success...
Good conscience.
And in La Salette, the message that she gives is incredibly dour. It's really, really sad. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of war. There's a lot of death. But it always ends with, through me.
Only through
me. It's going to be okay. We will emerge victorious.
And then...
That's so weird. It's almost like she's the mediatrix of all graces and the intercessor.
The co-redemptrix.
That just makes way too much sense.
Shut your face. You worship Mary. So, the post came out today, and we were saying that one of two things will happen. Either Holy Mother Church will weather this storm, be stronger for it, but be smaller. So we'll talk about the church remnant, right? Or this is the beginning of the end, and Christ comes back anyway. Either way...
That's good news.
It's good news. Just relax, right? But there were a couple of people who were more worried about the physical pain and chastisement and suffering that was going to go on than the eternal salvation that was to be attained at the end of this, right? Mm-hmm. And it led me to talk to you and to kind of think there's a lot of people who really don't understand or even admit the existence of this supernatural world in an intellectual way, right? So I think about faith in two different ways. I think about it as an intellectual faith and as a fantastical kind of faith, right? Mm-hmm. There's the faith that you get as a kid, which is fantastical. Jesus is this.
You get all the Bible stories,
cool things, right?
You get the miracles, you get all of the flash and the glitz and the glamour, and everything, for lack of a better term, is watered down to make it a little bit more kid appropriate, and kid friendly. But so you get that awe-inspiring ness.
So like when my son asks me how God does all these things, I pretty much tell him it's magic. It's God's magic. Mm-hmm. Right? Because it's the only way that he can understand it, right? I can't say, because God can do anything, because then he's like, well, why?
Because it mediates through the dominions.
It's like, well, why? Yeah, exactly. But, so, like, I just say it's God's magic, and he understands what magic is. But I say it's God's magic, because, again, it's only God's. Mm-hmm. It's not like magic, right? So my son has a very good understanding of a supernatural existence, but in a very fantastical way. Angels have wings and robes, and they're white, and they've got blonde hair and blue eyes and white robes and sandals, and they float around and everybody's happy, right? Very, very fantastical kind of existence, right? As he gets older, he'll get an intellectual understanding of the supernatural world.
Yeah.
The revelations, the concepts of what miracles are, the angels, the apparitions, all of those things. But I didn't mean to kick you.
Did you?
I didn't. I would have kicked you substantially harder. But there is a disconnect when we get older where your supernatural faith and your fantastical faith, as you grow up, you start with your fantastical faith, and then it should grow into an intellectual faith. But when we get older, we kind of drop the fantastical faith of the supernatural world mm-hmm. away, and we try to justify everything through an intellectual way, which you can. But you still have to have that fantastical awe of the supernatural realm.
You still need to approach things with a childlike sense of wonder, even though, because I firmly believe that science is the way for us to understand the beauty of God's creation, and that
a point.
Science and faith are not in are not in conflict with each other. Science is the way that we understand more about our faith and how this world works that God has created for us. But as we grow older, we start dropping that faith and we start relying more on the reason, because we're adults and we're smart.
I don't believe in fairy tales anymore.
Exactly.
Right? I have this conversation.
But again, you strip away everything. Christianity is a fairy tale.
It is. It's 100% not a fairy tale. It's a supernatural story.
Yes. It's right? Not a fairy tale, but it's a supernatural story. And talking about lines, we are so quick to draw a line. This is the only chicanery that I will believe in. I won't believe in the apparitions. I won't believe in the miracles. I won't believe in the transubstantiation of the host. Well, why did you draw the line there? Because I would think at the base level, we already believe in some things that are a little bit more of a leap than the transubstantiation.
Yeah, like, okay, you won't believe that Mary came down from heaven, but you believe that God, working through a man, turns bread and wine into actual human flesh and blood. Mm-hmm. But that blood and that flesh can't be detected scientifically. You believe that, but not that Mary came down from heaven.
Yeah.
I don't understand. So what we're doing is we're picking and choosing these supernatural beliefs of our Catholic faith that we will accept and ones that will deny simply out of an intellectual convenience.
It's
that's what it is.
Cafeteria Catholicism. I'm going to choose this. I'm going to choose this. I'm going to choose this. Because this is expedient, or this is...
I think it's
advantageous for me.
I think it comes down to the intellectual laziness, right? Because there are some aspects to our faith that we don't have to buy into, right? So like our last episode, we talked about angels. You don't have to believe anything that we said about that.
Except that angels exist, because that is a matter of doctrine. But the hierarchy and the
hierarchy,
roles and the
roles,
responsibilities, that is not a critical matter of faith.
You don't need
but
to believe
their
it.
existence is.
Yes. But, and this is a big but.
A big but and you cannot lie?
Yeah, big but. That was good. That was slick. I almost didn't even catch what you were saying there. Now I'm going to have to gift that.
You should not gift that. That is a very inappropriate music video. Do not give that.
You get sprung. Okay, so there are aspects of the faith that will believe that are fantastical and supernatural because it's been so ingrained into us that we just accept them. But then there are other aspects that we don't, because it requires an intellectual leap of faith. Mm-hmm. And we're not willing to take it. Right? So like Catholics should understand, without having to be intellectual about it, the transubstantiation of the bread and wine into the body and blood of Christ, because it's been ingrained into them through all of their catechesis classes. Should be, but not, right?
Not really.
You can't explain it, but most Catholics should know that, right? And that they understand that that's a supernatural act, right? But when you were to talk about the miracle of a healing, right? The miraculous curing. So any of the miracles that occur at Lourdes in France, right? From the water. Can't explain that. Nope, I don't believe it. Or the dancing of the sun at Fatima.
Or the sun rises, the sun sets. Tide goes in, tide goes out. You can't explain that.
Aliens.
You have to get the Bill O'Reilly gift for that one.
Which one?
The tide goes in. Sun rises, sun sets. You can't explain that. Tide goes in, tide goes out. You can't explain that.
I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Yeah, it's bad. The thing sucks.
Do it.
We'll do it live.
Just play us out.
But
yeah, so like what it comes down to, and I firmly believe this, that all of the issues that Catholics have, so I'll say almost all, because I don't want somebody to like message us like a keyboard warrior all butthurt that I'm saying this. The vast majority of us that have a problem with a supernatural statement of faith or aspect of faith, because it's not a statement, a supernatural aspect of our faith is because we're intellectually incompetent or lazy.
Because we're unwilling to take that leap of faith.
Or investigate it to a point where it comes down to accepting this on faith. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. It's I'm gonna put it. It is a visual representation of the phrase, but I always try to explain it with pop culture reference in the it used to be the final. It's the last good one. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Isn't there a Crystal Skull one? That's my favorite.
I said it's the last good one.
I love the Crystal Skull.
You're terrible. That movie was terrible. I've only walked out of 2 movies in my life and gone, did I like that movie? And that was one of them.
What was the other one?
Crimson Peak. Guillermo del Toro. Ghost movie. My final conclusion, no, I did not like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but yes, I loved Crimson Peak. Because I didn't understand the movie.
You just don't understand Crystal Skull.
No, I understand it, and it's terrible.
No, you don't.
Okay, we're
you don't have supernatural faith.
We're getting off.
Well,
off
I guess
track.
we know what we're doing for the first debate between us.
Indiana Jones and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's Catholic ties.
But so the thing about the Indiana Jones movies is that the first 3, they're believable, but there's still a little bit of a leap where you can see Indiana Jones finding the Ark of the Covenant or finding the Holy Grail.
There's enough of
But finding an interdimensional species of time-traveling aliens and the lost city of El Dorado is not actually gold, it's of knowledge. No, it's crap. It's crap, and I hate that movie. But So in the Last Crusade, when he's going through the temple to
Why you gotta
find the
be
Holy
so
Grail,
mean? Didn't you
because-
see, like, Starship Troopers?
Yeah.
Isn't that as bad?
No, it's not as bad as the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I quit.
It's not. Because it's so bad, it's good. It's like Tank Girl. It's so bad. It's
What
good.
about Toy Soldiers?
Small Soldiers?
Yeah, that one too.
It's okay. I would rather watch that than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
What about that gay Star Wars movie?
What gay Star Wars movie?
I don't know. The black guy's gay.
They're not gay.
One of the black guys is gay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pilot's gay.
Oh, Lando Calrissian?
Whatever.
No, he's not gay. He's pansexual.
Which means he chooses to do guys, so he's gay.
We are so off topic right now.
You don't have any supernatural faith. I'm leading this conversation.
But so the third challenge or the third task in finding the Ark of the Covenant is the leap of faith. And so Indiana Jones comes to the edge of a chasm and he sees what's on the other side and he knows what's there. But what it takes is a leap of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the perfect visual representation of it. You are on one side. You see the truth. You see the end goal. You do not see how to get there. And the only way to get there is to surrender yourself into the unknown. And in this case, the unknown is the will of God. The only way to achieve that salvation is to surrender yourself to that will.
Mm-hmm. I will say that was beautiful. I disagree wholly about your dismay in the movie. I think it's a beautiful movie. Those skulls are powerful.
But I think so.
I think this is the important, not the important. This is the difficult thing. So, as a Catholic, I talk about the transubstantiation of the host a lot.
Yes, it is as a Catholic one of the most important things that separates us from other Christian denominations.
I mean, I talk about it to secularists a lot, right? And in the same sentence, when I talk to a secularist about the supernatural faith I have in the Eucharist, and in the same sentence talk about the falsehood of Bigfoot, right? Or
aliens.
Aliens or the Loch Ness Monster.
Any cryptozoological whatever animals.
Any of those, right? Yeah. Or even the
or ghosts.
Or no, I'm a little bit more iffy on ghosts. I'll use Zeus.
Okay.
Right? Because Zeus is a god, but he's completely fake. But he has all this power and he has all this other stuff.
But why is your God real?
Why is your God real and this other God false? And it's like, well, he's just fake. And I'm trying to explain the difference between the supernatural faith I have in a God that I can't scientifically prove exists,
mm-hmm.
and a character who claims to be a God who I know to be false. And I have no more evidence scientifically that my God exists and that the Thor God or the Zeus God does not.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And people have a real hard time with that. But what I can do is I can back my God up. And I hate saying my God like it's my truth. I have a hard time because when it comes to backing up the truth of God scientifically, there always comes a point where you need a little leap of faith. I think there is a much larger leap of faith that you need to take when it comes to the divinity of Zeus or Thor or any of these other deities, and than you do in comparison to the
one true God,
the Jewish God, the Christian God, right? That I find there is a much smaller leap of faith that you have to make on that than you do the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
But people only see leap of faith and they're like, well, you're just living in a fairy tale world. To which I always respond with, well, you're living in a fairy tale world as well. Because what I'm doing is I'm saying that all of existence came from nothing, but the guy behind the nothing into something is named God. You're saying the thing behind the nothing turning into a something is nothing.
Mm.
Nothing powered nothing into something. And I'm saying God powered nothing into something.
When I was in college, one of the science classes that I was required to take, you had like a list of different topics, and so I chose astronomy. And so I was talking with the professor, and he said, "Hey, if you go find this documentary on YouTube, watch it, write a brief paper on it, and I'll give you some extra credit." And he was a very, very outspoken militant atheist.
Mm-hmm.
And so I watched the documentary, and he brought it up in class discussion, and he asked, because I was sitting in the front row, he asked what I thought of it. And I said, I find it a little bit funny that, because this was in college before I fell away from the church, I said, I find it kind of funny that I'm ridiculed, my beliefs are ridiculed as being fantastic, when this documentary was talking about quantum physics, and one of the theories about the existence of the universe is that there are these two 11-dimensional membranes floating in the outside space, the bigger space than our space universe, and they're just flapping in a breeze that doesn't exist, and every time they collide, another universe is created. So I'm stupid and ridiculed for believing in a virgin and immaculate birth, but this is a scientific theory that holds some clout in the quantum physics community. But you have no proof of it. So there's a leap of faith, but you just call it physics. And because it's a hard science, because you call it physics, it holds more weight, but I call it faith and religion.
You call it religion.
Mm-hmm.
There's a faith in
you call it science, I call it religion.
Yeah. And I think the big difference is we have this understanding that faith and science work together hand in hand in a beautiful way, right? In our last episode, we were talking about the three different realms of existence: eternal existence, supernatural existence, and then natural existence, mm-hmm. right? A secularist only really believes in a natural existence. And they really don't like to stray outside of that, because when they stray outside of a natural existence and they get into the supernatural realm, there is always a leap of faith.
Yes.
Always. There is
honestly, there is still a leap of faith to believing just in the natural world, because you have no proof that there is no supernatural world. So there's a leap of faith
regardless, yeah. Right? And we're just picking and choosing what we believe. We're picking and choosing which faith system mm-hmm. we have that leap of faith with. But again, the big point of this discussion was to talk to our fellow Catholics out there who have a hard time believing in the supernatural existence of our faith and its inner workings in our daily life.
The Gospels one of the Gospels ends with Jesus being ascending into heaven. Not being assumed, because he himself is God. He ascends as a God. And the apostles watch him ascend into heaven. But Marian apparitions, that's a bridge too far.
Yeah, it's a bridge too far. Or just even the fact that it's... sometimes when John dies and there's no more public revelation, mm-hmm. a lot of Catholics treat that as the end of a supernatural existence in the natural world.
I think it was John Milton who said it was the end of the age of miracles.
And it's not. I mean, we get miracles all the time, and this is what I love. So actually, and I'm guilty of this. There was, do you remember? No, you don't have social media. A couple months ago, maybe a month or two ago, there was a big not campaign, but a big viral post of a Eucharistic miracle in...
You were telling me about it, though.
In some country, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't believe in it or lend it any credence because for a number of reasons, right? The article was only published in a foreign language. It was never translated into English. It never got picked up by any of the Catholic media sites. Mm-hmm. But it's how do you not have faith in that, but you have faith in this? And I think what we need to do is, and this is the beauty of God's creation, is we can use our intellect to drive us to a belief in a supernatural event. and in not believing in other supernatural events.
Yeah, and I think that's really important because we have the Magisterium of the church that helps determine whether or not an apparition
Is
or a
worthy
miracle
of
is
belief.
worthy of belief.
And that's such an important term,
It
too.
really is, because you can be so easily led astray by evil supernatural forces in this earth, and you can't just believe everything. Because then it's okay, well, I believe in God this day, and then, oh well, but then I believe in Zeus this day, and now I believe in the Norse pantheon this day. You will just accept everything,
or Allah this day,
or now there's no God. So you have to be discerning, but you also have to believe in the supernatural, because again, I go back to, at our base level, we are a supernatural faith system. And it is disingenuous, it is intellectually and philosophically dishonest to build a solely rational belief system that is foundationally supernatural.
Yeah. Like you can't skim over the supernatural origins of the natural world.
Yeah. Why would the supernatural be so important in
the Old
Genesis
Testament,
through the Ascension, through the Acts, and then when the final apostles died, then all of a sudden there's just no miracles, there's no supernatural at all? Why was the supernatural so important for tens of thousands of years of human history, and then with the death of one single man, it's nothing? There's nothing left.
Did you ever, I don't think you ever did this, but I did this a lot because I like to test things. When I was a kid, I asked Dad why we didn't have miracles anymore. Like the miracles that you read in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a really good point, and I believe it to a point. His response was, there were so many miracles at the time of Christ walking the earth because the devil was walking the earth with him. Which I think that is an honest and valid answer.
I mean, like Satan physically manifested and tempted Christ after he came out.
So here's a question: because the devil is no more material than an angel is.
Sorry, I say physically manifested, but did not physically manifest, but manifested himself in a guise of a physical appearance.
Okay, so because the devil was walking around, there was a need for miracles, right? To combat that, right? And to convert a non-believer, you need something miraculous in order to give them that oomph, right? Which is it really goes to the essence of evangelizing. Miracle, substance. You can't just show up with the Bible. There has to be something miraculous. Right? Because that lends credence and trust and faith in the people that you're trying to evangelize. And then you can give them the substance of it. But you'll never be able to win people over just waving around the Bible.
Yeah, you can't win people over with one or the other. It needs to be both. It
needs to be both.
You can't have somebody come up and say, I was blind, but now I see. Well, there needed to be a healing in front of a witness or a crowd of witnesses to see this person was blind, but now is able to see. You have the end result, you have the substance of the miracle, but then you also have the miracle itself in the act of performing it.
And then there's the substantive not creation, but the natural, not natural explanation, but there's the natural realism of the supernatural. So the miracle occurs, and then there's the natural, this is Jesus does this because Jesus is God. So there's an explanation of how the supernatural became natural, right? Yeah. And when we talk about a miracle, it is a natural visualization, a natural realization of a supernatural event, right? So Dad said that it was because the devil was walking around, we needed miracles to occur in conjunction to help combat those the demonic influences. And it really, I look back on it now, and it has nothing to do with him. It has everything to do with the Catholic Church now. There are countless miracles all the time, and the church just doesn't lend credence to them. And not saying that the church says, no, that's not a miracle. The church just says nothing on them. And it leaves it up to the person to privately have a devotion to it or whatever.
We talked about it on the very first episode of the Marian Dogmas. In the 20th century alone, there were like over 800 reported apparitions.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were only like 30 that the church actually weighed in on. And either said, yes, this is worthy of belief, or no, this is not. This is a heresy.
But I think we as Catholics, because again, I'll go back to how I started this whole thing. When that Eucharistic miracle came around, my first response was no. And I look back and I pause now and I go, maybe I need more evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't need evidence in a physical manifestation. I do, but I also need it in a supernatural way, right? Because I can have evidence of a supernatural event, right? The grace of God. My addiction to pornography was combated because I had a supernatural belief in Jesus Christ, and that what I was doing was intrinsically wrong, and that I had a soul that was worthy of eternal salvation and communion with God. And I just begun the romantic conversations with my wife. Mm-hmm. Not even girlfriend at the time, right? And like the minute that became an inclination in my eye that her and I could be something more than just, friends, my need for pornography ended. And I can only say that the power that I got was not of my own. It was a supernatural grace given to me, a supernatural strength of discipline and fortitude given to me by something greater than I. Mm-hmm. But so I've experienced a miracle, right? And like, it's not like my arm got chopped off and then, it miraculously grew back. We look past miracles in our daily life because we're so numb to the supernatural realm and its workings in our daily life. We're talking about this.
We're looking so much for a parting of the Red Sea.
A big miracle.
We're looking for that grandiose gesture, that big thing that's just going to, without a doubt, prove. But the problem is, what people forget to realize, they think, oh, if I see this miracle, I can't not believe. But what is the Old Testament except time and time again, a miracle happening and people still turning away? Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt, parting the Red Sea, and what do? They build a golden idol. They see the pillar of fire and fire at night and smoke during the day, leading them to Mount Sinai. And what do? They still build a golden idol.
Yeah, or Lot's wife. Hey, don't turn around.
I'm going to lay waste to these two cities. Do not look.
Ah! Right? But it's just... It becomes intellectually disingenuous that we say we believe in a supernatural faith, but don't lend ourselves a capacity to a supernatural belief that is alive. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest problem that we have as Catholics right now, aside from poor catechism, is that the capacity for supernatural faith is dead. And all we're getting are memories of a supernatural faith. We get it from the saints. We get it from the church fathers. We get it from the catechism. We get it from Christ and the Gospels. We get it from the Bible. We get it from Scripture. But we ourselves lack that supernatural faith because we don't have... In essence, we've been coddled too much in the capacity for a supernatural faith that we really just don't believe in a supernatural world anymore. We believe in the shell and the memory of a supernatural world, but not in its actual active daily workings in our lives.
Which is really, really interesting because I've mentioned this on the podcast before, how beautiful it is that we have lived at the same time as now canonized saints. So when we think of saints, I think it's so easy for us to think of, oh, a saint. Okay, Saint Francis, Saint Benedict, people that lived hundreds of years ago, if not 1,000 years ago. We so very rarely look at the saints that are in our time, all of the martyrs from the 20th century. And what is the process for them to be canonized? Miracles have to be attributed to them. So even if we
I think most saints need a miracle.
So even if we recognize, okay, we understand that the church has acknowledged, Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta, she's in heaven. Well, how did she get there? Miracles are attributed to her name, so we're willing to believe in the church's authority and in the Magisterium.
That's the best part about that watch.
To have the authority to say that Saint Mother Teresa is in heaven, but we won't believe that miracles happened on earth that made the church acknowledge, okay, yes, she has to be in heaven.
So here's the thing, and I don't want this to turn into an argument, which I think we can actually turn into one of our devil's advocate things.
I'm not going to stand.
When we think about saints, I think we do we give to them more credit than due. When we say this person is a saint, what is the only thing that we mean by that?
We mean that we know they're in heaven.
That we know that person's in heaven.
Yes.
Does it have anything to do with their character?
No.
Or their abilities?
No.
Or their tasks?
Now, there are stories about saints having special abilities. Yes.
Right. So
but that's all what saint means. Saint means that we know that they are in heaven.
Because inevitably, all of us who go to heaven are saints.
There are countless saints that we do not know the names of.
So I got into a discussion with a buddy of mine, Ethan, over at Catholic Armory, and he was asking me about the vocation of singlehood.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I hate it. I hate, despise, cannot stand the vocation to the singlehood.
I think there's a purpose for it.
I don't.
What if you're gay?
I pray the gay away. Right? I think that's the only one that I have a hard time with.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, and this is not a dig against him. Is your mic still okay?
Yeah.
He was talking about saints that were single that got to heaven. And I was like, well, if it's a saint. And then I found out, well, I didn't find out. I re-recognized that saints just mean that they're in heaven, right? Mm-hmm. And this is nothing against him. It's more against me. I was putting more credence into a term than was due that term.
The problem is there are married people. There are mothers and fathers that are saints as well. Mary's parents are saints. Our Blessed Mother's parents are saints. So I get...
they should be.
So I get what his argument is.
Oh, no, he agreed.
That maybe, the single life and avoiding, it allows you to avoid temptation and focus more on virtues, and that's a path to heaven. Okay, I get that. But we so often forget there are husbands and wives who are saints.
Mm-hmm.
And we should not discount.
Saint Monica.
Yeah. Saint Augustine's mom.
Yeah. And she was a saint simply because she prayed the out of him. Literally.
Yeah.
Right. But so again, the whole purpose of the story was not to say anything about Ethan, was to say about my ignorance of the concept of sainthood. Right. Because Ethan is an extremely smart man who's discerning. I think he's discerned the priesthood, which is beautiful. I'm so happy for him. Yeah, we live in this world that is so rife with supernatural things, and that we don't lend credence to it. Let's not look at the good. Let's look at the bad. How often, and I can, there are, I said this to somebody else and they kind of rolled their eyes at me. There are people who have looked into the face of evil and have walked away from that. How those people aren't Catholic blows my mind. Mm-hmm. If you've seen the face of Satan in somebody else in an action and not believed that because there is true evil, that there is true perfection, blows my mind. Mm-hmm. We see it every day. school shootings, mass murders, rape, incest, all of these things that are absolutely abominable. And not every single one of them is caused by a demon or Satan. That's not to say that all bad things come from the devil.
Mm-hmm.
All bad things come from the devil, but not each one is directly influenced by him or a demon. But how you can say that the world is so full of evil and bad and not see that the inverse of that is good.
Or the one that really gets me is you only believe in the good and not the bad. You believe in God and you believe in heaven, but we don't really believe in Satan or hell. How can you believe in the quintessential good? How can you believe in the absolute good without believing in the absolute absence of it?
Or the flip, where you only ever believe in something that's evil, but not something that's good. It doesn't make sense. You've got to, if you buy one, you've got to buy the other. And I think it's the quintessential line in every horror movie when the lead character is faced with the demon or the devil, and the devil's like, and the hero says, well, if you're true, then God is true. And then the story turns around, right? We don't see that in our regular world, right? Like the other side is always talking about the evil this, evil that, evil this, evil that, but never the good. And it blows my mind because it's like, okay, like evil and bad are a supernatural effect of sin. They are the opposite of what should be. That only came in due to a supernatural event. Sin is a supernatural event. It is. You did something. Okay, yeah, well, you did it, but it violates God's law. In order for you to violate God's law, you need to be in communion with a you need to be in communion with a supernatural, eternal lawmaker.
There has to be an eternal, supernatural creator in the first place who created a law for you to violate for there to be sin.
Yeah. And people just don't see that at all. And it's like, okay, I just don't get it. I really don't. The whole point of this was to again, kind of like bring it home, because I think we've just about beat this horse to death again.
Do you want to talk about Indiana Jones some more?
No, I don't. Because the crystal skulls are great. I'm going to go, when we're done, I'm going to go watch it. And
you do that.
I'm going to FaceTime you. And I don't know.
Obviously.
Yeah, probably. We feel like this is the end of the road. For us traditional Catholics, some of us feel like this Amazonian Synod is the end of it, right? And we're really worried. Why are we worried? We're worried because we've lost our supernatural faith. We're worried, and this is a worry that I used to have, and I was talking to Father Patrick about this a week ago. As a kid, I used to be worried about if God was going to win the final battle. I was like, because it doesn't say who wins. Like, who wins the battle?
Mm-hmm.
There is a battle. Who wins it? And I used to think that the devil was in equal power in comparison to God. And he's not. But why are we so worried? This life is but a moment in time to us. Even for all of us, whether we go to heaven or we don't. After death is an eternity.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a not even a blip of the radar. It's not. And we treat it as if it's the only existence that we have.
It's because we've allowed ourselves to become distracted, and we allow ourselves to get wrapped up in the earthly and in the present. Because there's that whole notion of live in the present, live in the moment, which I understand, because I do want to live in some moments. I want to live in the moments with my wife, and I want to live in the moments with my kids. But I still need to remember that my goal, as wonderful as this moment is, my goal is not more moments here. My goal is to get myself and my family to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
We are here on this earth, and they are a source of comfort and joy and consolation. But we are directed. We are geared towards the eternal.
Mm-hmm. Which is why whether people want to admit it or not, we are all searching for that supernatural existence. Sometimes we call it the wrong thing and we look for it in the wrong places, but each one of us is geared for looking to that supernatural world that we know isn't here and that we know we're called to. But we're all geared towards it. And whether we want to admit it or not, it's part of who we are. And all I would say is that, for the Catholics out there who really don't buy into the revelations of our mother at any of the apparitions that the church acknowledges, we need to have a faith that her Immaculate Heart will triumph, Christ will come back, there will be salvation, and we just need to kind of relax a little bit because we get so wound up in what's going on. And obviously, I would hate for the synod in Rome right now to turn out, poorly, because it only leads to the damnation of more souls.
Yeah,
because it will lead people astray, and I get that, and that sucks. But I'm not personally concerned about it because I know what the truth is. I know what the supernatural truth is. I know that there is a supernatural world and that I exist in the natural world and in part in the supernatural world. And I'm trying to get to the eternal world. But we just need to get back to the fact that at times those worlds touch. And it's, I'll go back to the very first thing I said. When you pray, you're experiencing a connection to the supernatural world. Because you're not just praying to nothing. If you pray in a rightly ordered way, you're praying to something, whether you're praying to your guardian angel or you're praying to God or to Jesus or to Mary or to a saint. You're praying to something that is not in the physical existence of our world right now. You're praying to something that's outside of what is touch, smell, see, feel, hear.
But to your point, sometimes those worlds touch and we have apparitions or
have a
miracle. And it's just to say one more thing. It is a doctrine of faith. When the Holy See approves those apparitions or those miracles, that is not a matter of up to you to believe it or not.
Yeah.
There are certain things that you can. You are required to believe in the apparitions of Fatima. But
are you?
It's one of the Vatican approved.
But I don't think it's a doctrine of the faith. So it's not. You're not required
to believe in the revelations. But the fact that Mary came down and visited the children, I'm pretty sure that's a doctrine of faith. We'll have to look in.
Okay, I'm gonna go out on a limb. I don't think you have to believe in it because it's a private revelation, and you're not bound to believing in any private revelation. It's worthy of belief, but not required. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's
you should,
but you're not required to, because
I'll take your word. You know more than me.
But I'm only saying that because otherwise you would have the first Saturday of the month at every flippin' parish ever, and you would have daily rosaries in every Catholic's mouth. You would have all of these things that would be required of you if you were required to believe in those apparitions.
Regardless, I think that is one of the disconnects because we don't believe, because we don't have more daily rosaries, because we don't have more devotions, because we don't believe in the supernatural.
Because we're not experiencing the supernatural, right? I'll get into this. This is going to sound super stupid. I fell away from the daily rosary for about a week and a half when I changed phones. Because the app that I drive with that lists out the mysteries didn't work on my phone. So I didn't have it readily available, and trying to do a daily rosary at any other time is kind of a show. So I fell away from the daily rosary, and I felt more depressed and more frustrated and more upset than I ever had. And then I started praying the daily rosary again, and it started to go away. I feel like the more you admit the existence of a supernatural world and involve yourself in it in the right way. So obviously don't go out to a Ouija board. Is Mary real? Yes. What does she want you to do? Kill all the babies.
Because if you believe in the good, you should also believe in the evil. And you can invite the evil in just as easily as you can the good. And actually, the evil is on the prowl looking for ways to infiltrate your life.
Yeah.
So and doing stupid like the Ouija board is one of those.
Yeah. I think this was great. I really do. This is probably one of my favorites so far.
It was good. I like this one.
So we'll end. www.catholicguardians.com. Be manly. What else is there other than to be a...
Info at CatholicGuardians.com.
Catholic
email.
Catholic_Guardians is our Instagram. Catholic Guardians is our YouTube handle, Facebook handle. It is our podcast title on Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple, iTunes. Give us a 5-star review. Leave us a written review. We'd love that. If you're
on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification.
You wrote a blog that will be up tomorrow morning, Friday the 11th, and you're going to start writing more and more blogs because you write blogs better than I do, which will be great. We're doing a little bit of changes here and there, making this thing a little bit cooler.
But it's already pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. I mean, look at your flannel and look at me in my hoodie. That's not a Catholic Guardians hoodie. It's a hoodie for my business. Not this business, the other business. So follow us wherever you can. Subscribe, follow, like, all of those cool things. Pray the rosary daily. Again, the more you can interact with the spiritual, supernatural world in a positive and beneficial way, the better you are for it. It doesn't detract. Like having a supernatural faith in Mary and the apparitions doesn't detract from your supernatural faith in God. So yeah. I don't see a negative to it.
And if you don't pray the rosary daily,
you're wrong. You're 1,000% wrong, which is a lot of percent.
Which is more percent than is actually allowed.
Except in the supernatural world.
Except in the supernatural world.
Where it's 1,000% wrong.
Yeah. Pray with your family, pray for your family, pray over your family. Be manly. What else is there? If you're on the website, www.catholicguardians.com, go to the store. We have rosaries, we have chaplets, t-shirts, mugs, stickers,
phone cases. We're coming out with a pro-life rosary here in the next couple days, or hopefully it'll be up by the time this video podcast hits. We got a lot of cool things going on, so I'm looking forward to it. We have 2 big upcoming events that they're TBDs, to be determined. We have an interview with a diocesan priest. He's not technically in our diocese, but we know him, so we're gonna have him on the podcast, which would be really cool. So we're gonna have an interview with him. We're gonna talk about some stuff, and then we're gonna have an interview with a pro-life superhero, I think is the best way to describe her. Yep. She is literally, she's saved in my phone as Melissa, the pro-life superhero. It's a pretty long first name.
Yeah.
But
it's true. I mean, she does amazing work.
So yeah, that's what's coming up. So follow, link, subscribe, do all that stuff so you don't miss out on any of this cool jazz. And with that, you're going to end us in a Latin prayer.
Which one? I only know 4. Let's do the
Glory Be.
Glory Be.
All right.
In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Gloria Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sancto, sicut erat in principio, et nunc et semper et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
Amen.
Amen. God bless. Have a good night.
Have a good night.